Hey guys, welcome back to another great game of CEDH. Starting us off is Hidden on Rielle. This is an Is It Discard Matters deck that uses Rielle's ability to net positive on cards such as Faithless Looting to dig deep and assemble an Underworld Breach combo. His opening hand had a Lonely Sandbar, Volcanic Island, Ragavan, Red Elemental Blast, Cursed Totem, Sink into Stupor, and a Fierce Guardianship. Next up is Aaron on Cormela. This is a Grixis Turbonauz list, aiming to use Cormela's ability to accelerate it out or as part of a multi-card sack combo. His opening hand was a Misty Rainforest, Watery Grave, Forbidden Orchard, Mox Diamond, Demonic Consultation, and a Deadly Rollick, bottoming in a Braid. In the third spot we have Troy on Narset, Enlightened Master. One of the old guard CEDH commanders, this is a turn/multiple combats combo, aiming to hasten his commander and most of the time win on the spot. His opening hand had a City of Brass, Mana Confluence, Swords, Mystic Remora, Cyclonic Rift, Fury of the Horde, and a Beacon of Tomorrows. And bringing up the rear is Thatcher on Tymna Tana. Instead of a traditional Blood Pod list, this is more of a 4-color creature combo, aiming to use a multitude of different A+B combo lines. His opening hand was a City of Brass, Gaia's Cradle, Carpet of Flowers, Birds of Paradise, and a Ranger Captain, bottoming a Wishclaw and a Samwise Gamgee.
Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board.
Hidden starts off the game with a Volcanic Island into a Ragavan. Aaron plays out a Forbidden Orchard, guaranteeing that Ragavan hit, and then casts a Mox Diamond, pitching a Watery Grave. Troy plays out a Mana Confluence and has a turn 1 Fish. Thatcher takes one as he plays and taps a City of Brass to cast the Carpet of Flowers. He gives a card to Troy and then proceeds to his second main, gaining a green for a Birds of Paradise. Hidden starts off with combat. He sends the monkey at Aaron, who exiles an Underworld Breach off the top. Hidden makes a treasure and then pays 3 for an untapped Mystic Peak, tapping out to cast his commander Rielle. Aaron has a Misty as land for turn and cracks the fetch for a Volcanic, shortcutting as he casts an Arcane Signet, drawing Troy another card. Troy untaps and pays 1 for the fish. A City of Brass then comes out as land, and he then follows that up with a Chrome Mox, which imprints a Waves of Aggression. Thatcher then heads to his turn and makes a red off his carpet. He then uses it to help cast a Mayhem Devil, which resolves with him ending his turn with a Gaia's Cradle. Hidden once again heads Ragavan at Aaron, who exiles in a Braid, which Hidden does choose to cast, as he targets the Mayhem Devil and gives a card to Troy. Hidden will then pay 3 life for his Saporific Springs, and then ends his turn with a Cursed Totem, giving 1 more card to Troy. Aaron on his turn casts his commander Cormela. He gives a Spirit to Troy and then ends his turn there. Troy untaps and continues to pay for the fish. They have a tapped Hall of the Bandit Lord as land and then discard Nexus of Fate due to hand size. Thatcher starts off by gaining a black mana off his carpet and then plays out a Savannah as land for turn. He then uses his floating mana on a Viscera Seer into a Ranger Captain, tutoring up an Esper Sentinel, but passing it there. Hidden shocks into Steam Vents, and then cycles a Lonely Sandbar. He'll draw an extra card off Rielle, but also passes it there. Aaron has an Ancient Tomb as land, and also passes it there. Troy untaps and continues to pay for the fish, although they then continue to follow the trend as they take 2 off an untapped Hallowed Fountain and pass the turn. Thatcher now makes 2 mana off his carpet as he then casts his commander Tymna. A Verdant then comes out as land for turn, which is then cracked for a scrub land. He then casts the tutored Esper Sentinel, but in response Hidden casts a Prismari Command. He'll do 2 to Tymna and then draw 2, discard 2. Troy will draw off the fish, with Hidden looting away 2 and drawing 2 off Rielle. The Esper then resolves, with Thatcher ending his turn, casting his other commander Tana. Hidden plays out a Riverglide Pathway, and then taps the land for a Mystic Remora. There's another fish trigger on the stack, but responding to the draw, Aaron casts a Pyroblast. He actually pays the 4 and tries to counter Hidden's fish. But Hidden does have a response, as he pays 2 life to mental misstep it. Troy will draw off this spell, the mental will counter the Pyroblast, and Troy then finally draws off the first fish trigger. Hidden will then end his turn there. Aaron untaps, draws, and passes to Troy, with Troy at his end step attempting to Psych Rift on Hidden's fish. Hidden will draw and then fire off a Fierce Guardianship. Hidden will pay for Esper, but gives a card back to Troy. Troy untaps and finally lets the fish go. He then shocks into Steam Vents and for 5 casts a Temporal Manipulation. He takes 5 off his Hall of the Bandit Lord and feeds a card to Thatcher and Hidden. Next up is a Mox Opal. Hidden draws again, with Troy then heading to discards, discarding a Gemstones due to hand size. Troy then hands the turn over to himself and plays and cracks a Polluted Delta. They find a volcanic island and follow it up with their commander Narset, to which Hidden casts a Pyroblast of his own. He pays for the Esper, with Troy firing off a Dispel. Thatcher and Hidden both draw, with Hidden then casting a Misdirection, pitching a Phyrexian Metamorph. Looks like Hidden won the counter war, as Narset is countered and Troy passes there. Thatcher passes on his Carpet mana as he plays out of Badlands, and then recasts Tymna. He then heads to combat, sending Tana and the Ranger Captain at Troy. But I guess he wasn't thinking Aaron would help out, as he taps his Orchard for mana and gives the Spirit to Troy, which allows him to double block Tana, taking the commander out. With Thatcher on his second main, paying a life to draw off Tymna and making 3 red, spending 1 of it on a Greater Gargadon. Hidden untaps and pays for fish. Next up is combat, as Ragavan finally has an open attack at Troy, who exiles a land off the top. Hidden then on his second main casts a Rite of Flame. Thatcher will draw off the Esper, with Hidden using the floating mana to cast a Rhystic Study, passing after that. Aaron unfortunately is getting buried by the stacks, as he just passes his turn there. Troy plays out a Scalding Tarn and cracks the land for a Tundra. He then for 5 casts a Capture of Jinzhou. He'll take 2 to pay for Esper and Rhystic, but gives a card to Hidden off the fish. Troy then passes to himself and plays out a Cavern of Souls, naming humans. 7 lands along with a Spirit Guide then help him cast an uncounterable Hasty Narset. Hidden will draw off Rhystic, with Troy then heading to combat. He sends Narset at Hidden, with the attack trigger exiling a Swansong, Talisman of Progress, Grim Monolith, and an Underworld Breach. Hidden will then take 3 off the combat damage, with Troy on his second main casting his Talisman. Thatcher and Hidden draw, with Troy then following that up with his exiled Breach. Hidden draws 2 and then casts a Mindbreak Trap. There's an Esper trigger, but responding to that, Troy free casts his Swansong. Hidden draws and then counters back with a Pyroblast. The stack clears, with Troy getting his card, and the Breach getting exiled, with Troy then continuing their turn with his exiled Grim Monolith, giving 2 more cards to Hidden, which lets him then hard cast a Fury of the Horde. Hidden draws again and casts a Force of Negation, pitching a Lorien Revealed. That's it for Troy though, as Thatcher on his end step casts an Eladamri's Call. Hidden draws 2, as Thatcher is able to grab a Protean Hulk. Thatcher then heads to his turn and declines his Carpet trigger. Granted, with his Cradle out, he still has plenty of mana to cast the creature. He pays for Rhystic, as Hidden casts a Force of Will, pitching a Ghostly Pilferer. He gives a card off the Esper Sentinel, as the Hulk is countered. Thatcher then has a Wooded Foothills as land for turn, cracking the fetch for a Bayou, as he then casts a Wild Growth on his City of Brass. Hidden draws 2, as Thatcher then follows it up with a Wishclaw Talisman. Hidden draws 2, as Thatcher then heads to combat. He sends his Ranger Captain at Troy, with the Viscera Seer and Esper heading at Hidden, who blocks the Esper Sentinel. But before damage happens, Hidden casts a Pyrokinesis to deal 2 to Tymna and 1 to each of the Bird and the Seer. Damage then happens, and Thatcher on his second main then activates his carpet for black. He spends one of the mana to activate his Wishclaw, and then finds a card to hand. Thatcher then casts a Reanimate on the Protean Hulk. He'll pay for Rhystic with Hidden drawing 1. And Hidden has spent a lot of counter magic. And while he also has drawn a bunch, he's out of it now as he goes digging with a Tolarian Winds. But this does prompt a response from Aaron as he now then casts a Deadly Rollick on the Rielle. He pays for both Fish and Rhystic as Rielle is exiled, and Hidden pitches his hand and draws 14 new cards. Although he misses the interaction and has the pass priority. But it looks like Aaron has more responses as he then casts a Demonic Consultation, naming Fierce Guardianship. This time he'll give 2 cards to Hidden, but goes exiling. And oh boy does he start exiling cards. He does eventually find the card and cast it, giving Hidden 2 more draws and ending Thatcher's turn there. Hidden untaps and lets his Fish go. He plays out an Island as land and then casts a Lion's Eye into a Lotus Petal. He'll exile a Simian for a red and then cast a Recall for 1 on his Underworld Breach. Hidden discards 1 and gets the enchantment back to hand. He then casts it, and with the LED and Brain Freeze, the table will just scoop it up. Game review. Man, I knew I drew a bunch of cards, but it felt like a battle the entire time trying to hold the fort down. And to be fair, I would have lost if Aaron didn't have that counterspell. Although, he showed off a hand with a delay in it and realized he really should have just let me draw those cards instead of paying for Fish. And that shows my policing was only so good. And we were also very fortunate that Narset flips were not nearly that good this time. Although man, does that card slap. Thanks to everyone that joined for the game. And before everyone leaves, I want to thank our special Patreon members, Slyfox and Holy Septic, for their support of the channel, along with all of our other Patreon supporters as well. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.